Y'all listen, when it comes to Claressa, I'm starting to get a little soft spot for her. I really am. I really feel sorry for her. The more
Prepare yourselves, because the internet is currently screaming, and the foundations of the industry just hit the floor. We are witnessing the absolute most bone-chilling celebrity collapse in the history of social media. This isn't just a rumor. This isn't a maybe. This is the total high-speed disintegration of a love-E triangle that has kept us gasping for months. Tonight, Tasha K didn't just drop a bomb. She detonated a nuclear warhead on the Black Mamba herself, Claressa Shields. We have been watching the shade, we've been seeing the subliminals, and we've been waiting for the moment the glass shattered, and it just did. The final truth is out, and it is more sinister, more calculating, and more heartbreaking than anyone dared to imagine. While Claressa was online screaming, "My man," tattooing a married man's name on her body, and parading a lifestyle of luxury, the truth was hiding in the shadows, waiting to devour her. Is it true that she was financing her own betrayal? Did Papoose really use her as a temporary ATM before running straight back to the woman who actually holds the title? The silence from the Remy Ma camp has been deafening, but the victory is loud. We are breaking down the secret recordings, the leaked Reese IPTs from Louis Vuitton that prove who was actually paying, and the moment the fantasy died. Stay right here, because what I'm about to show you is the most savage knockout of Claressa Shields' career. And it wasn't in a ring. This is the end of the line. Apparently, Claressa spent Christmas alone in the Louis Vuitton store, racking up about $30,000 in bills, while the man she claimed was her forever was nowhere to be found. What started as a bold love story slowly transformed into one of the most humiliating public collapses the internet has witnessed in years. For months, Claressa Shields walked through social media with absolute confidence. In her mind, she wasn't hiding. She wasn't sneaking. She wasn't ashamed. She was winning. Winning a man, winning attention, winning a married husband. Every live stream, every caption, every interview carried the same message, subtle but unmistakable. This is my man. And the world watched. Not quietly, not politely, but obsessively. Because this wasn't just romance. This was a married man, a famous wife, and a third woman building a fantasy in front of millions. At first, fans treated it like entertainment, a messy triangle, a celebrity soap opera, something to laugh about, comment on, argue over, then scroll past. But slowly the tone began to shift because what looked like confidence started to feel like obsession. Claressa wasn't just claiming a man, she was performing ownership. Every appearance became louder. Every post became bolder. Every caption felt like a challenge. And behind the scenes, something far darker was unfolding. According to claims now circulating online, the relationship Claressa believed was solid was never stable to begin with. While she proudly told the world she had secured another woman's husband, sources say the marriage she thought was over never truly ended. And the woman she believed she had replaced never lost control. Because while Claressa was building a fantasy in public, Remy Ma was rebuilding a marriage in private. And no one understood that better than the woman who would soon step forward and detonate the entire illusion. Tasha K. By the time Tasha K entered the narrative, the story had already begun cracking from the inside. Fans had started noticing inconsistencies, moments that didn't add up, questions that refused to go away. Why was Claressa always alone on holidays? Why did Papoose disappear for days at a time? Why did every public moment feel staged? And most importantly, why did this relationship always look like a performance instead of a partnership? Then came the live stream, the moment that quietly shifted the entire narrative. So I felt sorry for Claressa when she was in there blowing a bag, 30,000, and then she had to take the bag to him. That single statement changed everything, because according to Tasha K, the luxury Claressa was flaunting wasn't coming from a man. It was coming from herself. The designer bags, the expensive gifts, the glamorous surprises on camera. Tasha K alleged that Claressa West buying her own luxury items, then handing them to Papoose, so he could gift them back to her on camera, creating the illusion that he was spoiling her. Not just romance, not just love, but performance. Manufactured affection. And suddenly, the story wasn't about stealing a husband anymore. It was about financing your own fantasy. Fans immediately rewound clips. Screenshots resurfaced. Moments once dismissed as cute suddenly looked staged. The surprise reactions, the forced smiles, the awkward pauses. And then, the most dangerous realization of all began spreading quietly across comment sections and private chats. What if Claressa wasn't the one being chosen? What if she was the one being used? Because according to the same claims, the man Claressa thought she had secured wasn't just emotionally unavailable. He was financially dependent and allegedly already living off women long before her. Tasha K didn't stop there. She went further, much further. Sources say this wasn't the first time Papoose had recycled gifts, not the first time he had rewrapped jewelry, not the first time he had presented items bought by women as proof of his devotion. And suddenly, a pattern began to form. A married man, multiple women, and a lifestyle funded by whoever believed in him the most. And Claressa, according to these claims, she wasn't the exception. She was the latest chapter. Meanwhile, while Claressa was busy staging romance online, reality was moving in a completely different direction, because behind closed doors, something far more devastating was taking place. The marriage everyone believed was over was quietly reassembling. No announcements, no statements, no interviews, just actions. And the first sign? A flight. Sources claimed Papoose suddenly packed his bags, booked a New York ticket, and disappeared. No goodbye posts, no affectionate captions, no explanations, just silence. Claressa's live streams continued. Her captions stayed confident, but her energy began to shift. Subtle at first, then obvious. Missed calls, unanswered texts, public reassurance that felt forced. And then the internet noticed something terrifying. Claressa was no longer celebrating. She was chasing. And that's when the obsession accusations exploded. Fans began compiling comparisons. Side-by-side photos, matching outfits, identical poses, same jewelry, same boots, same hairstyles, same captions, even similar locations. People weren't calling it coincidence anymore. They were calling it imitation fixation. And in darker corners of social media, stalking energy. Because Claressa didn't just admire Remy Ma. According to online speculation, she was studying her, mirroring her, replacing herself with her, trying to become her. Then came the tattoo, the moment that permanently changed public perception. A married man's name, etched into skin while he was still legally someone else's husband. The reaction was immediate. Shock, mockery, concern. Fans didn't see romance, they saw desperation. They didn't see loyalty, they saw delusion, and the contrast was brutal. Because while Claressa permanently marked her body for a man who wouldn't publicly claim her, that same man already carried his wife's name on his skin. Remy Ma's name. Permanent, legal, history. And suddenly, Claressa didn't look chosen. She looked trapped inside a fantasy she created and could no longer escape. By the time Detroit appearances started making headlines, the meltdown was impossible to hide. Courtside games, security interventions, over-dramatic entrances, forced smiles. Claressa appeared everywhere, but Papoose nowhere. And Remy? Calm, silent, untouched. Family photos surfaced. Holiday gatherings, matching rings, the same roof, the same family, the same man. And then the final confirmation began to circulate. Now, this ain't the first time, because Remy told us he was broke. And in that moment, the entire narrative collapsed. This was never a fairy tale. This was never a takeover. This was never Claressa winning. According to these claims, she was funding the illusion, performing the romance, protecting the fantasy, while the real marriage was quietly pulling itself back together behind closed doors. And the most painful realization of all, Claressa wasn't losing a man. She was losing control. publicly, emotionally, financially, because while she believed she was becoming the main woman, the real wife was never replaced, never removed, never defeated. And as this truth settles in, one reality now dominates every corner of the story. This was never a love triangle. This was a distraction. This was a performance that had reached its final act. But the nightmare was only starting for Claressa, because as the lights aim up, she realized she was standing on that stage all by herself, holding a receipt for a love that never belonged to her. The world was watching her unravel, and the woman she tried to replace was about to deliver the final, silent blow that would leave Claressa Shields screaming into the void of the internet. By the time the internet realized something was fundamentally wrong, the damage had already been done, and the cracks in the facade were wide enough to swallow an entire career. Claressa Shields was no longer the confident champion we saw months ago. She was no longer glowing, she was no longer convincing, and she was certainly no longer in control. The same woman who once stood on Instagram Live declaring victory over another woman's household now appeared restless, and her eyes darting toward the comments section for a validation that was rapidly evaporating. Her lives became longer, reaching into the early hours of the morning. Her captions became defensive, filled with typos and raw, unedited anger. Her energy was pure, unadulterated anxiety. And behind that carefully filtered confidence, a dangerous truth was forming that would rock the industry to its core. Because according to multiple high-level sources, the man Claressa believed was building a future with her had already chosen his past. Quietly, strategically, and without a single warning shot, Papoose had checked out of the fantasy. While Claressa continued performing romance on camera for the sake of her ego, the man had already begun pulling away in a way that left her paralyzed. Calls went unanswered for hours, then days, and messages were left on read until they were eventually ignored entirely. Travel plans that were supposed to be forever were canceled with vague, hollow excuses. And then came the most telling sign of all, the holidays. Because when the most important time of the year arrived, Claressa was isolated. We saw the posts, the luxury shopping sprees, the designer bags, the empty hotel rooms that echoed with a silence that was deafening. And where was Papoose? He was exactly where a husband belongs. With his wife, with his children, with his family. The contrast was visceral. It was a public abandonment disguised as a busy schedule. But the most brutal part of this entire ordeal? Claressa didn't seem to realize she was being ghosted in real time. She was still out there defending him, still claiming him, still protecting the reputation of a man who was already emotionally and physically miles away, tucked back into the life he never truly intended to leave. And that's when Tasha K returned to the screen, not with an ounce of sympathy, but with a warning that landed like a lead weight in the pit of everyone's stomach. Because he's playing you. Those 4 words landed like a quiet explosion. They weren't screamed, they weren't dramatic, but they were devastating because they carried the weight of 1,000 receipts. In that moment, Tasha K wasn't just attacking Claressa. She was exposing a reality that was too painful for the champ to look at in the mirror. What followed was the most humiliating revelation of the entire saga. According to claims now circulating through every gossip blog and private group chat, Claressa wasn't just emotionally invested in this man. She was the sole financier of the entire illusion. We are talking about luxury purchases, designer luggage, and expensive gifts that didn't come from his bank account, but from hers. The internet didn't realize the full extent of the deception until one detail surfaced that shattered the last bit of her credibility, the infamous Louis Vuitton receipt. Suddenly, the entire spoiled narrative collapsed. Sources allege that Claressa had gone shopping alone, purchased a luxury duffel bag with her own hard-earned money, posted the receipt online, perhaps as a subliminal cry for attention, and then handed that same bag to Papoose. The plan? He was to gift it back to her on camera as a proof of his devotion and financial status. This wasn't romance, it was professional-grade stagecraft, and it was the manipulation of a fan base that wanted to believe in a fairy tale. And when that detail went public, the narrative flipped overnight. Claressa wasn't being spoiled. She was sponsoring her own public execution. Tasha K's voice cut through the noise. It's like, did she just give him the gift to give to her back? To act like the things that we're telling her? That he ain't got no money? He is gifting you your stuff. That statement detonated across social media like a fire in a dry forest. Clips were replayed millions of times. Screenshots were analyzed by digital forensic experts in the comments sections. Fans began freezing videos frame by frame to see the tags, the dates, the hollow looks in their eyes. Suddenly, every surprise reaction looked rehearsed. Every thank you sounded like a script. That every gift moment looked like a desperate attempt to keep a man who was already halfway out the door. The woman who once claimed she had stolen a husband had been buying her own proof of love. And the man she defended so fiercely, allegedly living off her celebrity status while rebuilding his marriage in a completely different zip code. But the humiliation was just the appetizer. Because as Claressa spiraled, the internet noticed something even more disturbing. She wasn't just losing a man. She was losing her very identity. Fans began analyzing her behavior with surgical precision. The outfits began to look familiar. The poses were identical. The captions felt like they were copied and pasted from a 2010 Remy Ma fan site. The jewelry, the travel locations, the sudden interest in specific brands, the comparisons were undeniable and terrifying. Side-by-side images of Claressa and Remy Ma began flooding timelines. Matching boots, matching jackets, matching hairstyles. People were calling it single white female energy. It wasn't just admiration, it was a fixation that bordered on the psychological. And slowly the narrative changed from a simple affair to a total imitation, from confidence to a desperate obsession. Because Claressa wasn't just chasing a man anymore. She was chasing the ghost of the woman he actually loved. She was trying to replace Remy, trying to become her, trying to override a 20-year legacy that she couldn't touch with all the money in Detroit. And then came the tattoo, that permanent, irreversible mark of delusion. A married man's name, and all etched into her skin while he was still legally, spiritually, and physically bound to another woman. The internet didn't see it as a romantic gesture. They saw it as a brand of ownership that he never signed off on. Because when that relationship inevitably collapsed, the mark would remain. A permanent reminder of a fantasy that never belonged to her. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. While Claressa was getting inked, the man already carried his wife's name on his body. Remy Ma's name was permanent, public, and legendary. Claressa was left holding ink and illusions. Then came the moment no one could deny, the reunion. It was silent, it was unannounced, but it was undeniable. Photos emerged from the inner circle. Holiday gatherings, family dinners, matching rings, the same home, the same man. And suddenly, the story the internet believed for months, the story Claressa had paid to maintain, collapsed in seconds. Because Papoose hadn't chosen Claressa. He hadn't chosen the new life. He had returned to the woman who built him. He had used Claressa as a pit stop, a financial booster, a temporary ego stroke during a marital rough patch. And then he went home to the queen. And Claressa? He was left standing alone, publicly, emotionally, and financially. But here's where the story turns truly dark. Claressa didn't retreat. She didn't heal. She didn't take the L and go back to training. She doubled down. More lives, more defensive posts, more public reassurance that everything was fine. But the energy had shifted into something unrecognizable. Desperation had completely replaced her champion confidence. Defensiveness had replaced her pride. So when the internet stopped laughing, they started worrying. This was no longer just gossip drama. This was a woman coming apart at the seams in front of millions. Fans began leaving comments that cut deeper than any rumor. This is addiction. She lost herself for a man who won't even post her. They saw a woman who had sacrificed her dignity for a man who was currently sitting on a couch with his legal wife, laughing at the chaos. And the most painful realization of all? Claressa never stood a chance. She was never the main woman. She was never the future. She was never the chosen one. According to the leaks, she was the destruction, the temporary escape, the sponsored fantasy. While she exhausted herself, chasing attention and buying her own gifts, Remy Ma stayed silent. She didn't compete, she didn't copy, she didn't perform. She simply waited. She knew the E-Man, she knew the game, and she knew exactly how this would end. And as the smoke clears from this part of the disaster, we see Remy standing in the winner's circle with her family intact, while Claressa Shields is left screaming at her phone screen, trying to convince the world that the man who just ghosted her is still hers. But the final receipts are about to drop, and they will prove that this wasn't just a breakup. It was a setup for the most public downfall in history. Stay tuned, because the secret recordings are about to play, and you won't believe what he said about her when the cameras weren't rolling. By the time the internet realized the reunion was real, Claressa Shields had already lost the most important battle of her life. Not publicly, not dramatically, but internally. Because while fans were still debating timelines, receipts, and rumors, Papoose was already back under the same roof as his wife. No announcement, no apology to Claressa, no explanation, just presence. And sometimes presency is the loudest confirmation of all. For weeks after the supposed breakup, Claressa tried to maintain control. She posted as if nothing had changed. She spoke as if she was still chosen. She smiled as if her world wasn't collapsing behind the scenes. But those closest to the situation claimed something chilling. Claressa wasn't being left behind. She was being erased. Messages stopped. Plans disappeared. Promises evaporated, and slowly, painfully, reality replaced fantasy. Then came the moment Tasha K finally dropped the confirmation no one wanted to hear. The reunion wasn't rumor, it wasn't theory, and it wasn't wishful thinking. It was already done. The evidence was undeniable. Christmas, family together, the bond restored. While Claressa was shopping alone, spending her own money, posting her own fantasies, the man she believed was building a future with her was already back where he belonged, with his wife, with his child, with his family. And suddenly, the entire timeline became clear. According to claims, the reunion was never impulsive. It was calculated, quiet, and strategic. Because Papoose didn't confront Claressa. He didn't explain himself. He didn't announce anything. He simply withdrew and reappeared in Remy Ma's life. And the most devastating part? Claressa found out the same way the internet did. Through silence, through absence, through other people's photos. And that's when the meltdown truly began. Not on camera, though not in interviews, but in behavior. Claressa's energy changed. Her posts became erratic, her captions defensive, her lives emotional. Fans noticed tears behind filters, anger behind smiles, desperation behind confidence. Because this wasn't heartbreak. This was humiliation. And then the final warning dropped. Not as gossip, not as opinion, but as a prophecy. Tasha K revealed as he had the pictures of them together, the secret holiday evidence, and she hadn't even dropped the most explosive ones yet. Those words now echo through this entire story, because according to insiders, Claressa wasn't the first woman to fund him. She wasn't the first to protect him. She wasn't the first to believe in him. She was simply the loudest, the most visible, the most public, and therefore the most destroyed. Behind the scenes, the sources say Remy never panicked, never rushed, never fought publicly. She didn't compete, she didn't copy, she didn't perform, she waited. And while Claressa exhausted herself chasing attention, Remy quietly reclaimed her marriage one holiday at a time, one family dinner at a time, one private conversation at a time, until eventually the man returned fully, silently, and permanently. And here's where the story becomes psychologically devastating. Because Claressa didn't just lose a relationship, she lost an identity. For months, she had reshaped her public image around one man. My future, my forever. Every post, every interview, every appearance, all centered around proving she had won. But when that fantasy collapsed, so did the version of herself she had created. And the internet watched it happen in real time. Fans began noticing something chilling. Claressa stopped copying Remy. She started chasing ghosts, old outfits, old captions, old memories, as if recreating the past might somehow restore the future. But the truth was merciless. The reunion was done, the marriage repaired, the triangle dissolved, and Claressa was left holding tattoos, receipts, screenshots, and a story no one admired anymore. Meanwhile, Remy never said a word. No interviews, no statements, no victory laps, just life. Family photos, holiday dinners, wedding rings still shining, the same house, the same man, the same marriage. And in that silence, she delivered the most brutal message of all. I never left. The internet quickly crowned a winner, and it wasn't the loudest voice. It wasn't the boldest caption. It wasn't the woman who tattooed a married man's name on her skin. No, it was the woman who waited and got everything back. As Claressa's meltdown intensified, fans stopped calling her confident. They called her tragic. They stopped calling her bold. They called her broken. And the most painful realization slowly spread across comment sections. Claressa didn't lose because she loved too hard. She lost Becca Hughes. She believed in an illusion, funded it, defended it, and destroyed herself trying to protect it. And Papoose, according to the same claims, he walked away untouched. No reputation damage, no accountability, no consequences. He returned to his marriage, to stability, to security, leaving behind chaos and a woman publicly unraveling. As this story closes, one truth stands above everything else. This was never about love. It was about control, power, ego, and silence. Claressa chased attention, and Remy mastered patience. Papoose exploited both. And D, in the end, the loudest woman lost. The quietest woman won. And the man simply walked back into the life he never truly abandoned. Because in celebrity scandals, the real winners are never the ones trending. They're the ones who never had to explain anything at all. And now, this is where the story stops being entertainment and starts becoming a warning, because what you just witnessed was not a breakup. It was a public execution of a fantasy. A woman built a dream around a married man. She funded it. She defended it. She tattooed it into her skin. And when reality finally arrived, it didn't knock. It erased her. Claressa didn't lose Becca. She wasn't good enough. She lost because she believed a man who never intended to leave his wife. And she lost because she trusted attention more than truth. She lost because obsession blinded her to the oldest lesson in celebrity history. If he can betray his wife for you, he will betray you for silence. And while Claressa unraveled in front of millions, Remy Ma never raised her voice, never begged, never competed. She waited, and patience quietly took back everything. A marriage, a family, a man, a reputation. Meanwhile, Claressa was left with receipts, screenshots, tattoos, and humiliation. Proof of a relationship that only existed in her imagination. And the most chilling part of this entire story? The man walked away untouched. No accountability, no consequences, no confession. Just another woman emotionally destroyed while he returned to comfort, stability, and silence. So, before you call this drama, understand what you just saw. This is what betrayal looks like when it's slow. This is what manipulation looks like when it smiles. This is what obsession looks like when it ends in public collapse. The final bell has rung, the ring has been cleared, and the championship belt of this messy saga is firmly back around the waist of the woman who never had to fight for it. Claressa Shields might be the GOAT in the ring, but in the game of celebrity chess, she just got checkmated by the Queen of New York. This is the moment where the truth becomes undeniable and the fallout is just beginning. You've seen the receipts, you've heard the recordings, and you've witnessed the total collapse of a fantasy that was bought and paid F, or in blood, ink, and designer bags. But this story is far from over. If you don't act now, you're going to miss the most explosive part of this entire saga. There are more secret messages being decrypted as we speak. There are witnesses ready to come forward and reveal exactly what Papoose said behind Claressa's back. while she was buying his loyalty? If you want to stay on the inside of the biggest celebrity scandal of the decade, you must engage right now. Do not let the algorithm hide the truth from you. The gatekeepers are trying to silence this story, but the receipts don't lie. You need to hit that like button, smash the subscribe bell, and turn on all notifications immediately. Because when the next set of photos drops, you won't find them anywhere else. The silence is breaking, and the real war is just starting. If you aren't subscribed, you're already behind. Don't be the last to know how this ends. Like, comment, and subscribe right now. Your access to the truth depends on it. Was Claressa ever a victim, or was she complicit in her own downfall? Did Papoose play both sides, or did everyone get exactly what they deserved? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is not over. More receipts are coming. More names are circling.